Hey, everybody, good evening. Look at my Navy Cup tonight. Salute to my nephews, JD and Zach. They're currently Navy officers in pilot training. They are learning how to land things on carriers and stuff. And so salute to them tonight. We're here with Marshall in the middle. The idea of this started about 2016 when my buddy Rob Maggot, his wife called and said, "Hey, Rob, something's wrong. Rob can't remember. They say maybe he's got a tumor. I don't know." And so I immediately thought, oh my gosh, how do I get our stories? How do we figure out, me and Rob Maggot, he was like my big brother. Many times I followed him. I was the first sergeant after him. I was the jump master instructor after him. At every level, he was many times showing me what not to do, but he was always there, and he was a good buddy of mine. And so I called him and we recorded it, and that started off with Marshall in the Middle, Heroes I Know. And we've been going since 2016 doing this, and we've got over 200 stories told. And one of the things that we do, if we do the full story, is as I got a coin with a serial number on it that I designed, and I stamped the number. My number is 0034, and that's for my affinity for 3rd of the 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment and part of the 82nd Airborne Division. And then your story goes on this titanium thumb drive, right? So even if the Russian tanks come over, they won't be able to mess it up, and you'll have your story that your grandkids, because most of us don't talk about the things that we've done. We don't have the opportunity to. We were at the vanguard of our country's call. We were 18 hours away from Lord knows what. We didn't know, but we didn't care so much because we knew we had brothers and sisters that were right beside us, that we had trained with and made bonds with and done things that nobody could ever you just couldn't explain it. Tonight, I'm here with Sergeant Nate Aguinaga, and I know that I'm always messing up his name, and he's going to help me pronounce it later on tonight. But I am a proud owner of the division, okay? That's his first book, okay? I don't know even if you can get it anymore. This is his next book, Lifer. And through this, we have become fast friends. And so tonight we're going to be talking about some current events. We're going to be talking about something we're calling From the Foxhole. So, sit back, relax. We're going to grab a beer and some water and just sit and talk about what's going on, what we see. One of the things I'm going to talk about is my Marshall's weapons safety training and sponsorship program. I think that at some level we have to do something to help find a way to look at how we have access to guns and how it all works. And I have some unique experiences as a first sergeant that I can talk about. Hey, first, before we get too far, I want to do a shout out to Brian Watkins from the Airborne Apparel Company. He's out of Michigan. I've played some of his videos on here, but I woke up this morning to basically, "Hey, Will, you stole my my graphic," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I looked at the graphic, and I'm like, "There's no doubt I did. I didn't go to his site and blatantly try to steal it, but I do get graphics. I pull things to make T-shirts and stuff." And so, hey, Brian, hey, sorry, man, but my apologies, and we'll get it all figured out. He had actually, and I had been talking earlier about sharing some old pictures of T-shirts, and Brian's up there doing some great work. So go to Airborne Apparel Company. All that stuff's on the screen right there, and go check out his stuff. He's got some great commercials, and so I love you, Brian. Thanks for calling me out. And hey, when I make a mistake, you gotta admit it. And there's no doubt that's your graphic. So I love you, man. Thanks much. So hey, I'm here with Sergeant Aggie. What's up, man?
How you doing, brother? Good to be back with you and your listeners and your viewers, man. It was a good time last week.
It was, wasn't it? It really was. So tell me your full name. Pronounce it all for me. I want to hear about it.
It's
your
Nate Aguinaga. You say it right, but it's Aguinaga.
Aguinaga. All
In
right.
Spanish, it's Aguinaga. The N's got the, what do you call it? The Nye over it or whatever, but it's Aguinaga. And yeah, everybody called me Sergeant Augie in the Army because they used to jack my name up, man. I'm like, just call me Augie. Aguinaga's got too many syllables in it, man. So yeah.
Oh. So tell me about you this is really by request, right? Your wife even messaged me and said, "Hey, please have my husband on and you guys talk about some of this stuff. You've got him so excited." I mean, that doesn't happen. I mean, come on, dude. So tell me about what your thoughts are as we have this. So again, my idea is we're going to be from the Foxhole. So tonight we've got a maybe a 2 hour time in a foxhole, and we're gonna shoot the shit and have a drink like we couldn't back in the old days, and we're gonna just talk. We're gonna be fellow service members, and we're gonna have and just chat about things. And I've made it clear that I want to talk about weapon safety and those kinds of things. And I was just wondering what you were thinking about. What's on your mind.
My big thing is right now is the direction our military is going into current day, not back when we retired even. I mean, I retired 15 years ago, almost 14, 15 years ago. But yeah, just the direction our military is as of right now compared to, my God, even 10 years ago. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit of how some of the senior leaders that I actually served with and served under. And I don't know if you want me to mention names or whatever, but we can get into that. But just the direction some of the senior general officers have gone and led our country into, or our military into these days, and what they're allowing happen in our active duty ranks, and that's across all branches of our service members. Yeah.
I have a lot of guys and gals that are friends of mine that are still in the service. A lot of the lieutenants that I trained are currently lieutenant colonels and full bird colonels in the air defense branch. I have a lot of tentacles out there on those current things. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. And Ness, name names. I want to hear about it. One of the last live interviews I did was with the general whose job it was to lobby Congress. We did a full interview with him, and he's sitting there, a 2-star general whose job it was to lobby Congress. But I didn't talk politics with him, but I know the guy, and it's really, really neat. What is it? I love you, Nobel, man. That's one of my best squad leaders right there. Tell me about what it is that give me a little bit more information about what you're talking about.
Okay, so my point is, now I know we talk about my books, and I really appreciate everything you've helped me promote my books and stuff. But I wrote this. This was my 4th book after the last election results in 2020, and it's called One Term: A Current Day Political Assassination, about Donald Trump's President Trump's demise, how they took him down in a way where he had to fight uphill battles his entire 4-year administration and still got a lot accomplished, more than any president in my lifetime. But at the same time, he was focused on the military as well, getting us back on our feet. As everybody knows out there, it's been in the global war on terrorism. We went through an era, man, where we were, reusing equipment and weapons changeovers and using the same equipment for 20 years. And it got to the point when I did my 3rd deployment in Iraq, we weren't even bringing our own equipment over there anymore, man. We were just signing it over from another battalion, the same Humvees, the same up armored vehicles, the same certain weapon systems. I think the only thing we really had was our individual weapons that we brought from our posts, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but a lot of the larger weapons were also exchanged over there. So he rebuilt a lot of that. But in particular, my point was a lot of general officers these days that I had the privilege to serve under when they were commanders of mine. I wrote about in this book that one of them in particular was a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, former General Milley. Now, General Milley was my battalion commander in Korea for a year. Back when I was in the first of the 506 on the DMZ. He was our battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Milley at the time. And I tell you what, man, he was tough, dude. That dude was freaking. I mean, I write about this in the book that he was the first field grade officer that I ever seen fire a senior non-commissioned officer like to their face. It was our first sergeant we had, and he fired him right there in the company CP. It's a good story, man, and I'll like to explain it to you. But the point being is, and I was warned about this, and I have friends, and you do too, I guarantee it, that you were old comrades together, man. You know, they were either lieutenants, captains, or whatever when you were senior rank, and you guys were paired up and all this and that in the companies, and then within the battalion and brigade assets. But then once they progress to that general officer rank, they become politicians. I mean, if you have to be signed or approved and voted on through Congress, as general officers and admirals, you know, general officer rank have to do, you're automatically a politician, so to speak. But let me tell you something. Not all of them, and for your guests out there, I'm not talking about all of them, because I was in Desert Storm with General Schwarzkopf, and he was not that individual. He was a tough dude too, but he was a good 4-star general that didn't bullshit. And I remember Desert Storm. He told Colin Powell, who at that time was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, if you remember, told him straight up, if we don't get Saddam Hussein now, we're going to be back here in about 10 or 11, 12 years. And look what happened. Well, he was mysteriously at that time forced to retire at that point, pretty much, you know. So I see how it works, especially when guys like you and I, we get to the senior ranks. You know, you don't see it so much, man, when you're squad leader, and you know. But as soon as you hit that E8 position and above, you start working and being paired up with these field grade officers. And I'm not putting down officers. I'm just not putting down anybody, but I'm just making a point of, I seen a guy like General Milley go from a hard ass, great commander with the troops on the ground. And then I witnessed him turn into a Pentagon television politician, man. And I watched it. And so with this book, one term that I wrote, I talk highly of him because at the time when he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs and Trump used to talk big about him. He was tough and this and that. And I'm like, man, and I used to get my wife, I'm like, dude, I said, get out here. I said, that's General Milley, man. I said, that's my battalion commander. And I got certificates signed by this guy, man. And then what happened with the Afghanistan situation, I told her, because this book hadn't been published yet. It was still under the time frame of editing. So I told my wife, I said, what am I going to do? You know, because this book wasn't released until the summer of 21. Biden had already been in office. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this book? Because I write a paragraph, or I write several paragraphs, you know, talking up Milley so much and stuff. And I even write that. So she's like, do a disclaimer at the end and talk about how the wokeness and the change of that certain individual changed from commander on the ground to, a politician position, a political position. So that's what I had to do. I wrote a paragraph, a disclaimer at the end of the book, and I don't put the man down. I still to this day say he was one of the best, probably the best battalion commander I ever had, and I served, in good, strong units, man, tough. And then another one is obviously uh, Austin, Secretary Austin. Um, he was my brigade commander in the 505th in the 82nd. I think it was in the later 90s, early 2000. He was a full bird colonel, and he was our brigade commander. And I just can't see how these guys, man, have changed. How they just go with whatever the White House expects them to say, act, or how they expect them to command and control our forces, our active duty forces, man. And it's kind of sad in a way, But,
I'll never forget doing a jump master breakfast for 2505 Battalion Commander Lloyd Austin. I'm a young E5, and I was going down there. I don't know what we were teaching. It might have been harness single point release. It might have been the Stinger missile jump pack. I don't know, but I was a young E5 black hat, and I went down to his battalion, and he is a monster of a man. And
yes.
at that time, he was so lean and good looking and well spoken. He just walked in the room and the seas parted, right? He just commanded that much kind of presence, that much aura. And I'll never forget how much that touched me when he took that big bear paw of a hand and gave me that coin. I was looking through my coins earlier to see if I could find it. I couldn't find it, but he handed me a coin that day, and it just, that's part of the kind of the tradition. And but now I've been to 2 Navy graduations where he's the guest speaker. I see him standing next to the NATO Secretary General. Like, the NATO Secretary General is like somebody that I give a crap about. And they're doing these joint press conferences, and I don't know. Maybe he knows more than we know, and he doesn't understand that we really would prefer peace. But I think over time, it turns out that he becomes a pawn of the defense contractors in some way, and that he gets told what he has to say, and he's so far bought into it that all they're doing is using that charisma and all that great time when he was such a great leader, and propping him up to a level that now he can't go back from. Right? He's one of the guys that could be assassinated in the world at any moment. Right? From any country could assassinate him, and they could say, they could justify it in some way. Right?
Yeah, and that's another point I wanted to make was I put them both in the same category as excellent commanders back in the day, but General Milley, man, he could have went out strong. He could have went out. He could have resigned and just said, "I'm going to retire. My time is done." After Afghanistan, he could have said, "You know what? I gave the president my advice, my assessment of how to get out of that area, and he didn't take it. And so I have no choice, but I will retire. I am forced to retire because I can't serve under this administration." If he would have did that, he would have been a legacy of just a strong military leader, and he still is. And for everything he's accomplished, don't get me wrong, dude. I mean, the guy was a special forces dude, man. All that. His background and all that stuff. But the way he covered for the White House, and then going back to Lloyd Austin, when they were doing the don't comment for Iran and this and that, pretty much when the Israeli situation broke out a year ago, he followed the same suit and the word "don't." I don't know if you remember, like I got one word to say to Iran if they want to get involved and want to start personally bombing Israel and this and that, don't. And he followed right in suit with the Secretary of State, the President, the Vice President. I can go on and on. Every one of them, that was their word of the week. Don't. Well, they did. And now what? They did. So now we look like a weak nation in this world right now. I mean, everybody's pushing and popping and poking and prodding at us and laughing, and it's just it needs to go away. It's not the military we grew up in.
Right. So I think that what we're finally being exposed to is something that we've already been through and seen it from a different view. We have a unique view now, looking back on the world, having deployed, having spent the nights, in the Foxhole at Ranger School, sucking on 2 hours of sleep and a half of MRE and trying to figure out, what life is all about. Now we've been through that, and now we're looking back on it and we're like, but it was all the same stuff the whole time. This has not changed. It's been, we just are how now we have a responsibility finally to say something about it. Right. Mm-hmm. I have a very good friend, General Woods, retired 1-star general. I asked him directly in an interview just a few weeks ago. So tell me what happened. I can't believe you're not, a 4-star general. He said, Will, they were trying to get me to do things that I just didn't think were the right things to do. And so I retired. Right.
Thank you. That was another point I wanted to make. You're right on the money, man. I got good friends right now that have actually given me a lot of endorsement quotes on my books. Retired 06s, full bird colonels. And I'm like, sir, man, you were positioned to be a general officer. Nope. They're like, I can't be in that world because of what I'll be asked to do or not do. Let's put it that way. And so, yeah, there's a handful of buddies of mine that made it up to 06, man. And like when I was a operations NCOIC or whatever, they'd be like an S3 at the time. And these guys made it all the way up, man, to brigade commander in combat with brigade combat teams from Alaska, you name it, 10th Mountain. These guys really moved up, and they were positioned, coming from the 82nd, they were positioned to be general officers, man. But they were like, no, 06 is fine for me, man, because I don't want to have to become a politician or be asked to play in that world. So, yeah, it's interesting time.
So I want to talk a little bit about weapons safety. When I was a kid, getting a firearm was a rite of passage. It was something that my father and my uncles taught me about as if I was holding a treasure. Right. Mm-hmm. When I got my first firearm, it became a part of the family. I still own it. We're seeing things happen with weapons now that they're fetishized by people. The black gun crew, the AR community, these people get all these magazines and they dream about all this gear and they play Call of Duty on their PlayStation and they get all these dreams up in their head. And some of them get so messed up on this psychotic medication that they don't know what's reality and what's not. And the only thing they do know is that nobody's giving them any attention. Mm-hmm. And that nobody cares, and that it really doesn't matter, that there's no future in their life that they can see that is of any daylight at all. No uncle that's showing them any daylight, no nephew that they're proud of, no nothing. They're just incels. Most of them, they're involuntarily celibate in that nobody would sleep with them. Many of them say that they're of a different gender. But long and short of it is they have access to these weapons of mass destruction. You know that an AR or an AK-47, I know an AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. I gonna give a crap. Okay, what I'm talking about is a gun that you can put a magazine on that has a lot of bullets in it, and you can fix a stoppage very fast. You can do sports. So if
Mm-hmm.
it stops firing, it's not like, oh no, and there's a tubular magazine, you got to put a bullet in one at a time, any of that stuff. I mean, those weapons were made to shoot at people with. That's what they were made for. And to just think that just anybody, because you're an American, can go grab one and go get 60 rounds and just walk downtown with it anytime you want. It's just kind of weird. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an American and I'm free and I'm 22 years old. I can have this gun strapped around my neck and go walk around my community all I want. And
Yeah.
it's okay, yeah, I guess, but that's not what we want. That's not what any American wants.
Mm-hmm.
and and so we got to find some way to limit that. And so I have a weapons safety and sponsorship program. You go get some training with a weapon, and this is a voluntary plan that sellers start. This is the key. If you're a pawn shop or a gun store, you demand that somebody comes in with a training card, right? Maybe it's they've I don't know. We can make a standardized card. Each seller can come up with their own standards. It doesn't matter, but something that says, hey, this person stood next to another person. They talked about gun safety, and an instructor signed off on it, saying this person received my instruction. Because if you're not a good student, I'm not going to give you the certificate. If you aren't capable of, or if you give me any of those heebie-jeebies, I'm not going to sign your certificate, and you're going to walk away with your little trench coat and your boomerang, and that's all you're going to have. You're not going to go get a whatever it is. And then
Yeah.
the next step is when you go to buy a gun, you have to bring somebody with you who is a competent person who also has a card. And just like your uncle or your dad, it's a thing. Hey, I'm coming to buy a gun. Come sponsor me. I want this new Glock that's come in. I need a sponsor. Most of us would not have a problem getting a sponsor to come in and buy a gun with us. But the ones we're targeting are the ones you're like, no, no, dude, I don't want to know what. I've seen your temper. I've seen what you said. I read your online statements. I'm not sponsoring you to purchase a weapon. I think if it's a voluntary program that's done by sellers, that sellers cared enough about Americans as retailers in America that they would put some kind of steps in place. We do it for hunter safety. We do it for boater safety. You can't rent a jet ski without going to take a class, right? But I can go buy a gun anytime I want. And what? So that's one of my thoughts, Nate. That's one of my things that I'm trying to, get spread out there, but I can't get any traction from anybody. Nobody wants to even talk about it. They think that I'm trying to take away people's weapons. That's not it at all. I want to talk about real responsibility, not legalities. I would really think that if I was a pawn shop owner, I have a friend who owns an AR-15 manufacturing company. He and I consider each other friends of each other. I sent him all the information. He brought it up to his board of directors. They told him, he goes, Will, I love it. But I don't know. Well, his board of directors said, no, 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 don't you admit to nothing. No, don't you do this. I wanted to call it, I wanted to name it, after him and his company, and him the first one that started. Because can you imagine being a small AR manufacturer, and your weapon is the one that's used to go do the next mass crime? I would hate that.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's a good concept, man. Well, it's the same kind of concept that you have to do when you apply for when you go to your local sheriff's department for your county sheriff's. When you want to get a concealed carrier's permit, you gotta be trained or whatever. I know in my case, they just did a strict background investigation, FBI background check, and I had to show my DD 214, and and I was cleared because they saw exactly what you're talking about, to be honest with you, that I was trained and professional with weapon systems. So yeah, I hear that. I guess my thing is too, why do you have to be 21 to buy a pistol, but you only have to be 18 to buy an AR-15? Make one standard. Like you said, man, certify it. Because like you said, an AR-15, yeah, I understand it doesn't go fully automatic, but there's individuals out there that were ex-armorers in the military that can make it a fully automatic weapon. And here's another thing for you. I can go to Bass Pro Shop. That's where I bought my last AR. I went to Bass Pro Shop and I had a full background investigation, and we had to wait around for about a half hour, and it came back, and I was able to buy it right there. But then again, if I wanted to, because I live in Northwest Ohio, I could have went down the road illegally, of course, downtown Toledo somewhere, and probably purchased an actual M4 carbine, fully automatic, 3-round burst, for $200. You know what I'm saying? There's so many weapons out there on these streets. It's crazy to think about what these kids can get their hands on, And then you got to talk about the parenting too, And you know where I'm kind of going with it. I'm kind of going towards the kids having these weapons, doing these school shootings and all this and that. Now that's another subject for another day, but I'm a strong believer in having trained staff members in school being able to carry concealed, a small pistol, on them, just to because, especially in my town, if I'm there in the school, and I am a school teacher, man, if I'm there in my town, trust me, I can get to that. I can get to that suspect a lot faster than the police can drive over there and get there.
Yeah, so I was listening to a podcast last night, earlier today, where Trump was talking to an interviewer about school safety and school shootings. They were talking about hiring ex-veterans to go to schools and be there, be armed, and Trump said, well, that might be a great idea. That might be the way to solve it. He goes, but I think the way to solve it is to make sure that we have a certain population of dedicated individuals that are teachers in that school, and that they have a weapon either on them or readily available, and a plan that each one has a backup, and they have their own drills. And next thing you know, you have a staff that has competent people as part of it that are trained, and it becomes it becomes a unit. It becomes a whole thing. And when Trump said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense,
And you know what? I'm all for the also warning. You put a placard on all entrances into the school, and you put on there, be aware there are armed staff members in this establishment. And you don't know who they are, but we have them. And so in my school district, that's something right now that's being kind of talked to. We do have a resource officer that's assigned to our school. But that's one guy, that's one young individual, where I can say, I know for a fact we have several individuals in the school that are retired police officers, retired military like myself, another retired soldier, a Navy guy. But yeah, we have them available. And I think that's the answer. The answer is we need to have a security system in place in the schools. And I know we kind of went away from the safety of these kids young kids getting these weapons, but let's take it a step I just wanted to take it a step further, the reality of what we've been seeing since 1999, dude, or whenever Collinwood was 99.
I don't even remember anymore. I'll never forget that first school shooting in Columbine. Was the first
Columbine, not Collinwood. Yeah,
that affected me. and it just seems like each one just gets so unique and so different and so tragic. But it at these mass shootings at every level are really about, we got to limit the number of bullets you can fire without needing to reload, and the ability to adjust stoppages. And I mean, if everybody had a 30-30, and that's what you had access to, and that was what you used, then I get it.
Yeah.
Look, there was, but the bottom line of it is, and Nate, you and I both know this, and you see it probably way more than I do, is we have a group of kids that are uncared for, that are basically unloved and unguided, and they have no examples of success around them. Right? Um, I'm going to tell you that me joining the military was the best thing in the world for me, because suddenly I had somebody to my left and my right that if I didn't do right over time, they'd whoop my ass.
Yeah.
Right. And then I had a mentor that had already done it. Right. And if you just listen to them just right, they would tell you what to do. They would say, study this book, boy, good. Stand there in the line and don't say nothing, but read this book. And I'm like, okay, but next thing you know, you're successful. You're part of something. You have a building block to which to grow on. You get promoted. You test yourself amongst your peers. You see where you stand. It is amazing to stand next to a squad in a battalion and look around and be challenged. Who's the best squad here? Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget, as a private, my squad leader looked at me one of my first days in the 82nd, and the whole battalion was having a formation. We weren't together, but they were all in their little unit areas. And my squad leader said, which squad do you think is the best squad here? And I was just like, it's my squad. My squad's the best squad here. I'm looking around. I'm like, I guess it better be. And that set, in a way, that set me off on, so many things, because we all, next thing you know, my next battalion annual qualification fire, we had all these drills that we had to do, and we had to learn all these aircraft and what they look like, and we had to run and do our PT test, and we were real competitive. And that, man, the winners, if you got the winner, you were celebrated. In my unit, it was a big deal, man. You were the best. And so I cherished all that. I was willing to polish the boot and, shine your brass and study late at night. I was fun to me, but the kids today, they don't have that. They need something, that, because our companies used to do that, right? When you got a job at Northrop Aviation in the early days, or Boeing, or any even a fast food place in the early days, you understood who was who, and there was a path to management. You even had a Burger King manager.
Yeah.
That's what they did, and they were known in the community and proud of being the Burger King manager at your local Burger King. You had people like Al Bundy that made a living off of selling shoes. Remember those people? Right? That our world, the kids today that I see, they don't have a purpose. They don't see a future. I was lucky that my kids did. I was lucky that my kids all found a way to get a college education without any personal debt at all. And I'm very proud of them over that. One of my kids is a doctor. The other one's got her master's degree, and the third one's got more money than the other two combined. And they're striving, they're thriving in the world, but I can see how others wouldn't get it. For me, joining the military was immediate step up to the middle class.
Absolutely. So I grew up in the same boat, man. I had two choices. I'm from Michigan, and I had two choices, really. I can go work in an auto factory, or just a auto parts factory, or, because I didn't have money, and I didn't have the grades to go to college. I didn't get no scholarships, or go in the military. But I wanted to go in the military anyway, ever since I was a elementary school level kid, man. So with that, now that you're on that subject, uh, graduating class last year, 2024, for my high school, one student, one male student joined the Army. That was it out of a senior class. Now, don't get me wrong, we have a small school. Our classes are like, maybe 40 students per. We're a small farm town school district, but still, one student joined the military last year. And I'm noticing the reality of the recruiting, like we're seeing on TV all the time on the news. Recruiting is down so bad in this country. It's sad. But then, and I can't remember the staff sergeant's name. I think his first name is Tom, but the most recent Medal of Honor winner. He's on the news. He does his analysis, military analysis from time to time. He made a good point. I watched a couple weeks ago. He said it. He goes, "There's one reason recruiting is down so much. If you think about back in our day, Saturday and Sunday football games and sports events, every other commercial was a military commercial. It was a military hardcore recruiting commercial, man. Be all you can be, the few, the proud, the Marines, aim high, Air Force. I mean, Navy, the new adventure, stuff like that. And unfortunately, nowadays, and don't get me wrong when I say this, but unfortunately nowadays, all these kids see and all these families see are maimed veterans in wheelchairs, no arms, no legs, burned, and God bless Wounded Warrior Project and Tunnels of Tower and all that. And I donate to Tunnels of Tower every single month. My wife and I do. It's not about that, but my point being is they wonder why recruiting's down so bad. This is all these families see on television now for military commercials. They see these guys that are all jacked up, man, and they say, I don't want my kid coming back looking like that in 6 months, or a year. And that's a good point that there's just, you don't see any positive recruiting commercials anymore. Hell, we barely have recruiters coming to my high school.
Wow.
And they don't even wear dress uniforms. The Army recruiters, I'm not putting down the recruiting of my county, but damn, dude, they show up wearing faded ass BDUs, or whatever they call them now, or whatever the new camouflage is. But they show up wearing faded BDUs. I seen one kid show up the other day, or not the other day, but about a year ago. He had a little hole in his BDU bottom. Man, I wanted to pull him in the back room and light his ass up, but I was like, hey, you're out of that game. Just leave him alone. I don't know, man. I will give it to the Marines, dude. The Marines, they still show up in their dress blues. They still looking sharp, man. But all the other branches, they just show up in their utilities, man. I don't get it, man.
I'll tell you the thing, the guys I know a lot about are the guys that are doing the junior ROTC. I have a lot of buddies that have retired and are part of that program. And I'm so proud of those guys. I know the caliber of those men and women that are doing that, and that they've got to touch that teenager in a way I cannot imagine being around some of those leaders and they not just make massive monumental changes to the young people that they were around, because they made such a difference to me as an airborne soldier. A retired CSM is sitting there in a high school touching so many of these little lives. They don't get it. They don't see it. But if they're able to get that guy or gal on their team for just a little bit, they get a little success going to one of their little squad drills or some of the things. You get a little bit of that taste from a good leader. Next thing you know, you're a good leader. Next thing you know, you're a good leader, not only whether you're in the military, but somewhere else. Because a lot of kids a lot of kids aren't good enough to be on sports teams. And so being on that military team, whether it's the shooting team or the rifle drill competition or the marching team or the color guard, that really gives them some unique kind of something to do in a way, I think, right?
I,
What
go ahead, man.
what do you think is so one of the things that's been interesting to me recently is watching the what I've watched our political parties do in our country. I think that the Democrat Party and the Republican Party have shown themselves to be the same monster. And Trump has come in from the outside and told the Republican Party, um, "Hey, I'm gonna be a Republican because that's the best fit I have. But please don't call me a Republican. Actually, but I'll let you guys be on board." And now he has built a coalition around him of thinkers, right? RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, J.D.
Yep.
Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Elon
Really,
Musk.
yeah, people that look at what Elon's doing. Elon's spending like $1 million a day giving out. I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's not like Trump's calling in favors, anything. These are legitimate people that legitimately think that this is something that we need to do to save our nation. What do you think about that?
Uh, it is, because the first president I voted for, candidate, was Bill Clinton, believe it or not. Because like I said, I'm from Michigan, and I was always raised that we're Democrats, and we're for the working blue collar people, and we're for the working class, period. And that's the end of it, man. Everybody. I grew up in the state of Michigan for 18 years, born and raised, and all the auto workers and all the union guys, man. It was just my dad was a union guy, and that was just the way of life. And when I was a little boy, and I write it in my book, One Term. It's one term. Let me back up a little bit. This is not a I love Trump book, because I actually talk shit about Trump a little bit in there. But it's a more of an autobiography of myself and my opinions of his before, during, and after presidency. And I even go back to when I was a little boy getting off the school bus, and my mom and I would watch Oprah Winfrey every afternoon on the couch. We'd sit there, and that was a big thing, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think she used to come on, and I used to ask her, I was like, "Mom, who is this dude that she keeps having on all the time?" And she says, "Well, he's a rich, successful businessman in New York, and they're good friends." I said, "Oh, gotcha. And she kept having him on and having him on and having him on. And, so our generation, we just grew up knowing that Donald Trump was a successful businessman, dude. That was it. But like you said, going back to your original question, we needed that change. We needed that change because, in my opinion, the Democrat Party that I grew up in is definitely not the Democrat Party we have today. It's obviously reversed itself, and I think Donald Trump was a main reason for that. I mean, look at Jesus. You got freaking Liz Cheney going on tour, campaign tour with freaking Harris, and I mean it's crazy. But the reason I changed over primarily, and I write this in the book as well, the reason I changed over was after my first tour in Iraq in 2004 with the 82nd. I came back and I started seeing people turning their backs on it, man. And I'm like, what's going on here? And it was being led by the Democrat Party, man. And I'm like, dude, we kicked ass, man. We did a great job. We came home and this and that, and I just started seeing people, to include my own family in Michigan, and They're all hardcore Democrats, hardcore liberals, to be honest with you. But yeah, dude, we'd be sitting at the dinner table. And my brother would start arguing with me and this and that, and I'm like, dude, man, it's not like that over there. I said they actually gave us thumbs up all the time every time we drive by them, and this and that. And uh, I got on a bus once or twice. We had to do like a traffic control point security, and there'd be a bus full of Iranians coming in there to go to their what do you call it? Like their Mecca version in Iraq. So they were allowed to come over across the border, and we had to set up a traffic control point there. We had a couple of those missions, and I got on the bus, and I literally had a couple Iranians raise their hands and ask me, "When are you going to come help our country like you did here?" You know, so we're not as hated as people think we are. I mean, yeah, we had the the insurgency and all that stuff. We did a lot of that stuff to ourselves too, believe it or not. As you know, the Albigrad and all that bullshit. But yeah, he kind of changed that. And when he was campaigning in 2015, man, I told my wife after I saw that first debate, I was like, he's going to be the next president because he destroyed he destroyed those guys. You know, I'm talking about the Republican stand-ups.
It is so funny watching Shane Gillis do the
Oh yeah.
that guy's hilarious. He's like you one of the debates is like, your wife's ugly.
Mhm.
Like, dang.
I'm telling you, man, it was when I saw that first debate. Oh my God! I told my wife, I was like, dude, nobody's gonna beat him because he has no political correctness to him,
Right.
and you already know who he is. I mean,
Yeah, it's really neat. It's really neat. One of the things that's one of the is interesting to me is how a lot of people are like, "Well, he's a convicted felon," and I'm like, "Oh, come on! That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That y'all prosecuted him on all of these stupid. It's just made up crap, and then it's just really wild. It's just really wild at every level what they've done.
well, look what they did to, and this is the dangerous part of where we're at right now. When they're weaponizing the Department of Justice. Look at it, Mayor Adams right now. They indicted him only because he was talking shit about his city is getting destroyed by these illegal immigrants, man.
Oh yeah, right.
And Trump even called it the other day. He was like, dude, I gave him 9. He said, yeah, I told my son, he goes, I was sitting with my son, Eric, and he said, I'll give him 9 months. He'll be indicted for talking about the administration.
Yeah.
And there he is. They got him. They're trying to get him, But yeah, we live in a dangerous world right now, man. A dangerous country and world. But there's hope. There's hope. And like I told my wife the other day, man, I said, look, if she does win the election, we're going to be fine. But there's going to be a lot of people that are voting for her that are not going to be fine just because of their hatred for Trump so bad. I'm foreseeing food lines, bread lines. Yeah. And I'm not trying to bring fear factor, but yeah, to have a presidential candidate primary without a single vote has me particularly worried, man. Not one single vote, dude.
That is so baffling wild, right? That is absolute baffling wild. That I don't know. I've never. I just can't imagine that somebody from the left could ever argue in a successful way that Kamala Harris is a legitimate, duly selected presidential candidate. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it. She's a propped up puppet. She's probably a great person. I would probably love to meet her, go have dinner with her, have a glass of wine, talk about all kinds of things. I'm not disparaging her as a person,
Yeah.
right? Neither Tim Waltz, probably the same. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you that if I was in Tim Waltz's unit, I would probably not be there very long. Probably, his characteristics and the way his history is, and the things that he's been told. I don't know. He would have to be a damn interesting leader. But I can't imagine him being a part of my squad. I don't know. I don't know. I just can't. I just can't.
Not 3/4 ADA, baby.
Oh my gosh.
What is that? The Dragon Missile Jump Pack? Gosh. What is it? First, they have to be the number 1 jumper, right? Number 1, 2, and 3 jumper.
Yeah. So the Stinger Missile Jump Pack was really tall.
Did I say Dragon? I meant Stinger.
Yeah, and you had to be 5'8" or taller to jump it, and you were either the number 1, or if there were 2 of you, you'd be the number 1 and the number 2 jumper.
Yes,
and then your team chief would jump right behind you, and I
had to think about that the other day, and my wife happened to find my old jump master study notes, and I found that in there. But yeah. Stinger Missile Jump Pack. That was a big portion of the written exam too. You didn't know all that stuff. I had jumps with a handful of them, man, all the time.
I enjoyed. So part of my time as a jump master instructor was I wrote a lot of the written exams, redid the written exams. Flores is on here. I'm pretty sure that's Flores, but he was a guy in my platoon that used to jump the Stinger Missile Jump Pack. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So
that's right. You'd be 5'8".
Yeah. And I've seen guys stand on their tippy toes wanting to jump it, and I've seen guys shrink to get as short as they could because they didn't want to jump it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, same here. I've seen guys who are like, well, we don't need to jump the tripod for the 240 Bravo machine gun. I was like, what do you mean we don't need to? I said, we're going into a field operation after this, man. No.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, don't even try it. But was it you I was talking with? We had a conversation on Facebook. When you call for when you're PJ back on the street, and you call for all current qualified jump masters come up here and see me, and there was only like one dude would show up out of the entire chalk. I'm like, dude, man, it's me, the AJ, 2 safeties, and you. There's 5 of us for a C-17. But you know what though? Other chalks would always, the sergeant major would fix that for us. Other chalks would come over. And I used to get nervous when the black hats would come down to inspect our large package, jumps and shit like that. But then that was just shortly after I was a jump master. But then after that, I got used to them, man. And here's something I forgot to tell you the last time we talked. When I finally passed JMPI, the instructor that showed me the stopwatch, it might have been you. What year were you a black hat?
93 to 96.
Okay, so no, I was after your time. I didn't graduate till 99, but he showed me the stopwatch, and it was so cool. And I forgot to tell you about this. He looked at me. He goes, 454 or whatever it was. I think it was 454. He goes, let me tell you something, dude. He goes, don't let me catch you on the street JMPI and 3 jumpers in 5 minutes. He goes, because that ain't right, man. He goes, we set the standard for the school for you to learn it, but don't let me catch you doing it in 5 minutes or less, dude. And I remember him telling me that. It was funny as shit. I never forgot that. But yeah.
There's many of us. I think if you were to put a Hollywood jumper or a combat equipped jumper with a harness single point release in front of me, the old equipment, wearing the old Kevlar ballistic helmet and the
T10 Delta,
all that, dude, I think I could do it. I think I could do it, and to standard. like no sequence violations. But of course, I wouldn't make time. But I tell you what, just because I've done it so many times,
Yeah.
I'll be faster than most anybody. I guarantee you. 'Cause
6 inches from the equipment you're inspecting. Yeah, I could too, but the T11 parachute, I know nothing about. That was past our time.
yeah.
I heard they had problems with it when it first came out, like a lot of malfunctions, man. Jesus.
We've had some, gone through some, remember when the MERPs first came out, we had all the accidental
Yeah.
activations of the reserve, and we lost some.
They were putting those little black plugs in there.
It was crazy, absolutely crazy.
If you were a jump master, they would issue you a little black plastic plug you'd put in there in your ripcord grip to protect it from hitting the door or something.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that time. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
We had the exact class after I graduated in '99. We had a soldier. I can't remember what unit he was. I think he was in our battalion 3505. Or no, I'm sorry, 1 Panther 1505. He was in our HHC, and I think he was a cook or something in HHC. And they just came out with the new. I can't remember what it's called. It is the MERPs with the launch. What do they call
big
it?
Spring in it. Big spring in it.
He was doing his clear to the rear. He was a student, and he came back in, and the ripcord grip got caught on the door, and it went out. And he went out feet first through his reserve, and the risers came up and scissored off, killed him. But they actually it scissored off his head. He was decapitated, and I remember that distinctly. And there was we didn't do it, but there was other detailed units, because we were going into the field, that had to find him. And I'm trying to think of the training area. He landed in the woods, man. And I can't remember the drop zone either that he was supposed to land on. It was one of the smaller ones, but wooded area. And they found him. They found the canopy hanging in the trees. And when they pulled him down, that's when they found he had been decapitated. And I remember that, man. We were scared shitless. And I was like, man, dude, I don't want to be a jump master now. But they were coming out with I think that was the incident that made them come out with that safety plug for the ripcord grip.
So I was intimately involved in a lot of that stuff, and a lot of the techniques that were being taught at the time that got exaggerated, that ended up between a faulty, very, very touchy parachute and some techniques that were being taught that some people denied they were being taught, but they were. Doing the Dougie, they were going out one side and coming back in the other. And what was happening is, on one of the doors, your reserve ripcord grip was just grabbing just enough, and next thing you know, you're out the door.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
bad things happen.
You remember General Caldwell when he was our division commander?
Right.
Well, I think when you said you read division, he was I was the primary jump master of a C-130, and it was his first jump as division commander. And damn it, the sergeant major put him on my aircraft because his broke down. So I was like, well, thanks a lot, man. I said, damn, sergeant major. I said, fuck, that's kind of some pressure. So I got the division commander and the division command sergeant major, 1 and 2 jumper, obviously, nighttime, probably 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. But I swear to God, it was a thunderstorm out there, man. I saw the lightning and everything, man. And he didn't know. He didn't know the new standard of stand in the door. So when I gave stand in the door, he put his hands outside the aircraft like the old days, like when we went to jump school. And I went to go grab his pack tray, and the sergeant major grabbed my arm, and he said, and he got into my ear, so he didn't say don't touch him. He's just like, don't touch him, because he'll go, man. And so I was like, well, what do you do? Standard's the standard, man. This guy just broke the standard. And I'm thinking, okay, apparently division commanders in the 82nd don't have to do pre-jump, and they don't have to do mock door, none of that shit, right? Or go to jump refresher, whatever. So yeah, man. And it was an early 1 minute that the loadmaster gave me. I couldn't see shit anyway, man. The loadmaster gave me an early 1 minute, and the sergeant major started chewing my ass right there, man. And he goes, way too early. What's wrong with you? And we were in a storm, like I said. The plane was banking. They were banking the plane. I said, oh my God, the division commander is going to fall out of this aircraft, land on Bragg Boulevard somewhere, and I'll be handing out basketballs at the fucking gym the next morning, dude. Excuse my language, but yeah, dude, that was a good experience. I write about that one too, man. So I got the division commander's first jump in division, and it was cool too because he'd come up and ask me, man. We were at Green Ramp, and he's like, he goes, hey, jump master. He goes, what door do you want me on? I said, sir, you're the division commander. What door do you want? He goes, well, what door are you on? I'm like, shit. I said, I'm on left door, sir. I always take left door. He goes, all right, well, I'll be your number one jumper. I'm like, shit. Okay. Which is cool because I was confident. I was like, I don't want the other guy. I don't know how good he was or whatever. But yeah, man, that was a good experience. Division commander. And the sergeant major put him on my aircraft, dude. I was like, what? He's like, hey, man, just maybe that's an NCOER bullet someday. I was like, oh, God, I don't care about that shit right now. But yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, I would think that the division commander could take up whatever door position he wants. All right.
You're the division commander.
Man, handle your business, sir. If you want to go old school, we'll let you sit down if you want.
Oh, it was good, man. So anyways, I thought I was going to get my ass chewed the next day because I did have him he was in the door for a long time, dude. And then, of course, I had the sergeant major tell me not to touch him. But I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, my primary duty is to pull this guy's pack tray. He's doing something unsafe. My primary duty is to pull him back. But you got to understand and respect my dilemma I was in, man. You know what I'm saying? So,
woo. Hey, I promise you, if I'm the jump master and that division commander takes up a good old school door position, like he's obvious, he knows what he's doing, I'm going to give him a wide breadth to do anything he wants, right? Yeah. I'm not going to yank him out of the door. Now, if he starts doing some crazy stuff, then hey, no telling, right? I've had a guy fall out before. I've had to drag somebody back in. He wouldn't let go. That was one of the wildest things in my life. I'm up there as a black hat, and I'm watching Tony Shirley grade students. It's part of our program. You get evaluated every once in a while to make sure that in the aircraft you're doing the right thing. So I've got a board, and I'm grading Shirley. And I look up, and Shirley's student had fallen out and was hanging on. He's got his combat equipment, an M1950 weapons case with the M2x4 in it, that we used to jump. Yeah. And he's hanging there. And I end up right down at his face. I end up there somehow. And I don't know, Shirley had a static line, and so I ended up, I was like, hang on just till the drop zone comes up. And when the green light comes on, I'll tell you and you can let go.
Let go.
I ain't letting go. And I'm like, okay, well, it was not even 30 seconds yet. So we still had a good while he was hanging on. And so the whole time we were just chilling, just flying along. And I'm like, okay, when the green light comes on, you let go. And he's like, nope. And so the green light comes on. I'm like, go. And he's like, nope.
Now the aircraft at least was already at slowdown at that point, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, he had basically on his initial clear to the rear, he fell out somehow.
Huh.
But didn't fall out. He fell down and grabbed a hold of the trail edge of the door and was half in, half out. I probably could have kicked him and made him get out. If we wanted to kick him out, we could have shoved him out.
Right.
But he wasn't hanging on by his fingertips. It was more. He had more. But it was the wildest situation I've ever been in. Talk about worrying about a reserve parachute deploying.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what because I had a BA-18 on. Tony Shirley had a BA-18 on. If we go out with force, we're not gonna be able to activate our reserve. So half the time I was pulling that big ass guy in, I had my hand on the freaking silver handle in case I went out. Yeah, it was. But we got him back in, and we got back to the school. We strapped him to the ramp, and we continued the jumps. We continued to drop. And when we got back, we didn't know what to do with him. We didn't let him jump. He just sat back there, and he was just quiet. And we don't have there's not a grade sheet thing for falls out. Falls out but won't let go. Is that a jump refusal?
I could imagine. So that would have to be an actual safety report. It'd have to be, yeah.
So we ended up dropping him from the course. We're like, you're dropped from the course. And
would he be allowed to return?
Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely. But it was
crazy.
It was really wild looking at this grown man's eyes and saying, okay, you've fallen out, but that's fine. We were going to leave this parachute. We were going to jump anyway. So that's fine. Let's just wait a while. Hang on. And when we get over the drop zone, I'll tell you, you can see the green light and you let go. And he's like,
so let me ask you a question. Theoretically, what if he would have just said, I got this, no problem. Because, the force is too hard for him to pull him back in or for himself to pull himself back in. But what if he would have said, you would have said green light, and he would have just let go and his parachute deployed? He probably, I would assume, maybe still would have been a no-go, but could have got a retest.
Right, absolutely, for sure. At some point he turned into a jump refusal, right? Right. If you think about it, at some level, he is a competent jump master student who is involved in an airborne operation. And the safest thing for him to do is to just let go and let the original plan take its place. But he put us all in this crazy situation where it was either I knock him out or throw him out or dangerously pull him back in.
He became a safety risk, man, at that point.
His eyes were freaking, that big. And he was, he was a black guy from up north somewhere. And he was one of the funniest guys in the world in the class. Real funny guy, big, tall guy, big guy. And we had to drag his freaking big ass back in, man. But he was like, he wasn't letting go. He wasn't letting go.
Oh,
I hope to get Tony Shirley on the show. He and I are friends on Facebook, and we're going to talk about that before long live on the show. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear his memories of that day. Because I'm telling you, I'm subject that I'm not so sure as to all the details because I don't remember. I don't know if I always remember things exactly as they were, or if there's some kind of fabrication of my memory of things. Army stories only have to be 10% truth. That's it. As long as you start from 10% truth, you're good. You're good. So there I was, there I was.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's a crazy ass story. So do you remember what drop zone it was?
No, I don't know. I don't have any idea. At that time I flew so many missions, so much stuff. I don't have any idea.
Now, you got to jog my memory because I don't remember. Was Jump Master School primarily Sicily?
No, it was whatever we got jatted. It didn't matter. It could be anything. It really could have been anything. We
Oh,
did.
I
We,
couldn't. I can't remember.
Sicily's a big favorite just because it's so easy to get to.
Yeah,
It, but you never know what you got going on on the
no,
range.
you're right about that. Yeah,
And so we
you're
end up
right.
at the one sometimes, and it's
Because
great.
as a student, we used to fear what drop zone we were going to get because I
Oh yeah.
remember that, and what door you were going to get. Because remember, we didn't get a choice of doors,
Oh yeah.
and we would freak out because it's like, oh no, Ryan Luzon. Oh my gosh, that's a hard 30-second reference, or just as an example. There was, I think the easiest was Sicily, of course, because you had the Red Roof Inn was your I think that was your 30-second, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 1 minute. I think it was your 1 minute. I can't remember, man. But I'm with you, man. It's like, geez, that's 20.
It is neat to remember there was a time in my life, like look, right. This is edition 5 of the ASOP.
Oh,
I basically wrote this. This is the first one off the press, right? Basically, me and Dan Bennett and our whole team put it together. I treated it kind of like a yearbook. I had all the other instructors
that's
sign.
awesome.
Yeah, so that's all the other instructors that were with me when we pulled it off the press and out of the box.
That is awesome.
It's really cool. It says, "To Will, a fellow instructor, Dan Bennett." I mean, they didn't know what to write, but I was like, no, I want this. This is going to mean something to me one of these days.
Oh,
But
yes.
we took it from just a paper copy, and I digitized the whole thing on PC Works or PC Tools or something at the time, and a 3.5-inch floppy disk, and it was the first Army manual that had color pictures in it and stuff that we put together. And my buddy Tony Shirley that I talked about earlier, he's actually got some sketches and drawings in there that he did, and it was a really neat thing.
ASOP, no kidding, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of ASOPs, do you remember Master Jump Master School? Did they have that in your day?
I created it.
You got to be. Hey, let me go over here. Hold on, dude.
Yeah.
This is weird.
All right, I'll grab one too.
Wait, baby.
Yeah, Dan, I'll never forget. Dan came up to me in '95. We had just finished the ASOP, and I was a deputy committee chief. And he said, "I need you to create the Master Jump Master program. I want 100 answer written exam. I want to make these guys and gals legitimate experts in all jump master activities in their units, and we need a course that makes sense, that is meaningful, and that actually does something that when the people graduate, they feel as if they're empowered to go to that airborne commander and be their eyes on the ground."
Yeah,
and I am so proud of what we did. I really am
crazy that you wrote that, because I went there. What year was it? 05? Summer of 05, I went to Master Jump Master, and I was nervous because I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like JMPI on steroids or something, man. I was freaking out because our Sergeant Major, man, our Battalion Command Sergeant Major, he put me in charge of we had our own battalion pre-jump master course that he put me in charge of to get everybody, leaders accelerated into making sure that they're going to have a working knowledge before they went there. And So then he goes, I'm sending you to master jump master. And he sent me and another jump master from another company in our battalion, uh, Sergeant Britt. I remember him. And me and Sergeant Brent went there together, and it was all just administrative, so to speak. I didn't know it was like basically uh, division level coordination of basically you're going to learn the ASOP, forward and back,
Right.
and that was pretty cool, man. I was like, okay, so I got the certificate, and because I was like, jump master, I never even heard of it. I was like, damn, that's about as airborne as you can get, dude.
That's right. That's right.
Damn,
Yeah.
dude.
I'll never forget running the initial class. Me and
Uh-huh.
Dan and John Thornton, I think, ran the initial class. Warren Close might have been involved in that. I forget all the players, but we had all of these wonderful jump masters from across division that wanted to be, master jump masters, and of course, we're black hats. We're going to put on a world class, course.
Absolutely.
And,
Always.
and I'm so that's one of the things that's really I had really forgotten about it, if I'm honest with you. But we basically took AMO school, and we took being a jump master, and we took how we would do the outload procedures, and we gave everybody an understanding. It's once you see the big picture as a jump master, then it's like once you're exposed, then it's just like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
so by doing that, you know what, we're 23. I was 25 when I wrote the Master Jump Master program, right? I'm 24 when I wrote the ASOP. That's looking back on it, it's kind of crazy to think the things that we were doing and the stuff that was like nothing. Like, I'm flying tomorrow, I'll go get on a C-130, go fly around, hang out of it 20 times without thinking of it, Army your door,
Yeah.
grade the student, you know, to think that that's the way I live my life, and looking back on it now, and I've got all these little trinkets and things around, and little coins and stuff that that mean so much to me,
Sure.
so much to me. But nobody else would ever get the story unless I sat here and I talked with my buddy about it. It's not something I'm going to talk about all the time. Hey, by the way, look at all the stuff that
Right.
we did. But the one of the things that was the check that was never cashed so much that we've already given the government, right? We signed our life away to go wherever they wanted us to go, and all we did was made an agreement with our buddies that we would do the best job we could once we got there. And we trained each other, and we fought for each other. We didn't fight for a flag when it was time. We were looking out for our buddies. We were like, so and so's hurt, so and so needs help. I need to pull my guard shift. I need to do the things that I need to do. We don't. It's not the red, white, and blue. It's our soldier next to us. And as well as I do that. I always think that you probably saw it the way I did, was that somehow the military did a great job of making us see through any kind of racial or ethnic or gender divides. Even, I'll be honest with you, even like gay, straight stuff, I don't care. I don't care. You do your job. You show up here. You're a leader.
Same here, man.
I had zero issues at any point with anybody over any of those things when I was in the Army.
Me too. And I'll be honest with you, um, even in the infantry barracks, man, we knew there were gay individuals, man. To be honest with you, and we knew who they were. Well, we didn't care. Nobody cared. Uh, we were going through the don't ask, don't tell anyway, but at that point, but nobody cared because they were kick-ass soldiers and they had your back in the field, man. They were good. Any training environment you ever went into, they were awesome. Nobody cared. And then they have to come in and make it a political issue. That's what I was talking about earlier about just a lot of leaders from the White House had to come in and make it a political issue, man. And I'm like, it didn't have to be that way. It could have. Um, I don't have a problem with when the Army said homosexuality is authorized and this and that. I was like, well, we've always had gay individuals in the military. No big deal. I mean, I didn't even care about that. The only thing I had a problem with, to be honest with you, was the transgender thing, because I was a drill sergeant for 2 years, man, and I was like, this just ain't going to work, man. I mean, how is the barracks life going to be in basic training, man? I mean, and I don't have a problem with transgender. I don't care what everybody, you do your own thing, man. But to integrate it into the ranks, especially when somebody has to go get a sex change operation, and now you just lost a saw gunner or just lost a rifleman from your squad, because you know as well as I do, you're not going to get that replacement because they're just going to be on medical leave. And so they're still assigned to your unit. You're not going to get a new soldier to replace them. And oh, by the way, you're getting ready to deploy in a couple months, and you have a soldier or one or two soldiers that are out. But I think my biggest thing with that, and I don't know, we just got into this subject here, but one of my biggest thing was, what do you do on a PT test when you have a male soldier that identifies as a female and he says, well, I'm a female? Do you authorize him the female standard for a PT test? So then he has to do 13 or 14 push-ups to pass. What happens to the male soldier who can't get 42 push-ups but can only do 41 or 40? Guess what? The male soldier who claims to be male but doesn't have the physical fitness enough yet, he fails 2 record PT tests. Guess what? He's going to get chaptered out. That was my problem with it. And I had gotten into a lot of not arguments, but debates about that. And I was like, you guys got to understand, man, it goes further than just saying equality, because you're talking about an active duty that's not an equal environment. You're trying to push equality into a non-equality organization. You're only the best of the best, or you're not going to make it in the military. Same concept, man. If you're colorblind, you might not be able to get certain MOSs. If you flat-footed, you might not even be able to get it in the Army. So there is distinctions. But that was my thing with it. It was just the transgender thing, man. And when they authorized, they said they were going to authorize transgender coming into the active duty, and that was back in the Obama days. And yeah, I had gotten in some arguments with people about that.
So tell me about your time as a drill sergeant. What did you do? Did you have any challenges as a drill sergeant?
I was scared at first because they sent me to Fort Jackson and we were co-ed. Going back to what I was saying, we were co-ed, so we had male mixed female platoons. And you don't get a choice where you go. They just said you're going to drill sergeant school, and then you're going to be assigned to Fort Jackson. And as an infantry guy, I was like, oh man, dude, I got to be around females. Damn. I said, this is going to be harsh, because at that time, you heard the rumors that a lot of drill sergeants were messing around with the female privates and all this shit, man. It's like, oh my God, dude, and you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this. So when I first went in there, I was kind of intimidated and scared. But I tell you what, man, those female drill sergeants, I was good after my first 2 cycles, because I was just like, dude, man, they can get away with what's coming out of their mouths. I'm good, man. Oh, it was terrible. It was crazy. Some of the shit that would come out of the female drill sergeants, man, out of their mouths to the other female students or recruits. But yeah, man. And it helped me out understand 17 and 18-year-olds for 2 straight years. But drives you crazy. It's nonstop, drives you crazy. But it gave me a learning understanding of now I'm a school teacher as a secondary, way of life, and it helped me a lot because let's put it this way: I know not to be in a classroom alone with a student, male or female. You know what I'm saying? Like there needs to be somebody there with them and all that stuff. Because that's how it was when you were a drill in a co-ed unit. You know, they couldn't come in by themselves. If they had a problem, they had to have a battle buddy with them.
Right.
And I think all basics like that, even Benning or Fort Sill or whatever, But yeah, it was a good time. It was rewarding. It got me my E7 first time look. What was that? Secondary zone. I made E7 secondary zone when I was down there. I didn't ask for it. I got drafted for it. Well, levied. They called it levied, but it's drafted. So
I never got a chance to be a drill sergeant. Everybody told me I'd be too nice. I wouldn't be a good drill sergeant. I wasn't mean enough. That's what my soldiers always told me. But I guarantee you, if they disappointed me, I could,
it's not about being nice. It's about being able to teach.
Right.
You've already proven yourself that you can teach.
Right.
So what it is the drill sergeants that failed, all they could do was scream and holler at these kids. No respect from the kids, from the soldiers. No respect from them, because all they could do was scream and holler at them. But where I was successful was I could yell and holler too, but I could teach them. And I was more worried about teaching them, because I was told the first day I got there was, hey, dude, this is not about you anymore. Your NCOER and your evaluations are all going to be on the success of the recruits. That's it. If they can't qualify, and you have a high percentage of kids that can't qualify with the M16, back in those days, we still had the M16. And I was like, okay, got it, man. I can do this. Too easy. And it was easy for me, man. Everything was pretty much easy for me in the Army, except for Jump Master School. That's the only school I ever failed, and I had to repeat the entire course. I always tell that to people, man. I said, the only school I ever failed in the Army was Jump Master, and I had to go back a couple courses or a couple classes later and repeat the entire thing. But yeah, toughest school I ever went to, Jump Master.
There are no fake jump masters. There are no fake jump masters. You can't fake your way into it. You got to meet the standard. At the 82nd, you got to memorize pre-jump and know nomenclature and rig your equipment before you can even walk in the door. Before you can even come, you've had to have. I mean, how many hours do we dedicate just to memorize pre-jump? Right? I mean, think about it. I mean, it's a significant amount of time to funnel a kid's. And again, I'm a kid. I was 20 years old when I went to Jump Master School, maybe 21. Anyway, I was young going to Jump Master School and memorizing all that stuff, because it was like a rite of passage. If you wanted to be anybody in the 82nd, you had to be a Jump Master.
Yeah. Pre-jump, I got pretty good. And I'll tell you what, that actually, Jump Master School helped me get through Drill Sergeant School. Because Drill Sergeant School, you have to modulate. You have to learn a lot of those drill and ceremony modules, and that was Jump Master School taught me how to do that in Drill Sergeant School. Because there was guys that couldn't graduate Drill Sergeant School because they couldn't modulate, they couldn't repeat.
Right.
And I know, like Jump Master School, the standard was it doesn't have to be verbatim, but you can't change the meaning or forget something, know. But I had it down word for word. And I remember it was a female staff sergeant at the time, black hat, that I had. She was the one that graded me on my JMP, or not JMPI, my pre-jump. JMPI, I meant pre-jump. You know what I mean?
I'll never forget, as a black hat, pre-jump mornings are the most boring times in your life. Okay, so I'm an instructor, and I have to go listen to however many people give pre-jump, and they got to do it competent, right? They've got to have it right. And so I've got a clipboard and and so I pull my hat way down over my eyes. I got a coffee cup. I'm leaning back like this. I'm like, barely awake, listening to somebody say the first thing I'll cover the 5.4, first point, proper exit, check 5% count, never hit it, blah, blah. And they go through it and and it's like that was one of the most dreaded mornings of my life for 3 years was pre.
I could imagine, because then you have to listen to the whole thing.
Well, I'll tell you what most of us did. Okay, most of us, if you were competent and it was obvious that you were competent, there were a few things that we would tell them. I would tell somebody from the get go. Hi, I'm Sergeant Marshall. I'll be grading you on your pre-jump examination today. Go through the task condition standards. But one of the things I would say as part of it is, if you're doing really good, I may ask you to advance to the next step. Do you have a problem with that now? I will not hold it against you. And most of the time they will say yes. And I'll say, okay, well, you're free to begin whenever you're ready. And I'll sit down,
And I think that happened to me because my instructor, she said, let's just skip over tree landing and water landing, and let's just get to just cover the wire landing for emergency landings. And I remember that, and I think that's exactly how she did it too, man. Because I couldn't only imagine that, having to sit there and listen to that and that's all day.
It's like, yeah.
Now, for the students, I think it was an early day. Like as soon as you did your test, you could leave and go and take off from the school, I think.
Yeah. So normally it was an early morning report, and we would do like pre-jump from like 5:30 to like 8:30 or 8 or something, and then the students had to show back up for training at 9 or something. So you do the pre-jump, and then everybody went to Starbucks or the local coffee shop or whatever, and then we showed up and did whatever we did at 9 or whatever, something like that. Everything's such a fog from back then. I don't remember all the details, but it was great.
A lot of stuff you're bringing up is bringing back a lot of memories. But yeah, you're right, because so much has happened since then. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had 9/11 afterwards, and all that stuff. So
yeah, it's like a whole new world at some point. Pre 9/11 and after 9/11, I think, is some way that you can almost measure things. But back in the late 80s, I went to jump master school in 1990. Actually 89, and graduated in January of 90.
Okay.
And then deployed to Korea, PCS to Korea as a novice rated jumper, but I was jump master qualified. I had a jump master certificate, but I didn't have enough enough jumps, enough anything to
get that star.
Get a star. So all of my buddies were like, "You're a jump master. You're not a jump master." Like, whatever. That was
that kind of happened to me because I got levied for drill sergeant duty when I was just finishing up my second jump master school, and so I only had a few months, and I had to hurry up and bust my ass to try to find 2 safeties and a nighttime AJ to get my star, because I had the jumps. And I did it though. I went to drill sergeant duty with my star. So because I was like, I'm getting my star, and I talked to my first sergeant and everybody, and they're like, it's Ardennes, man. It's Fort Bragg. Go down the street, you'll find somebody. I went to every unit you could think of. I ended up going to 18th Airborne Corps units. What's that engineer unit they got down there towards the
37th?
Yeah, the 37th Engineer.
Yeah.
I went down there and got a couple safeties, and coming from the 82nd, it was kind of cool because I was like, wait a minute, they're doing a Hollywood daytime jump, and then at Green Ramp they were having cookouts and shit. Man, I'm like, Jesus. I said, they're partying it up, man. I'm okay.
the look, the infantry guys, you guys don't get it. Like at ADA, we had our own aircraft because of our Stinger missiles. So we would go have cookouts on the drop zone, and sometimes down at St. Mir, Glees, like the SF guys and stuff would. But yeah, if you were just in the 05, man, you didn't get those kinds of jumps.
That's all I did. I did 3 PCSs to the 05, man. Because I was like, well, maybe I'll get the 04 this time, or maybe I'll get 325. And I got the 05 3 times, which I loved because I knew a lot of the people, man. They usually stick around. But I get to.
It's wild, especially in ADA. We were such a tight group that would be willing to jump out of airplanes and yet work on Vulcans and Stingers and stuff. So third of the fourth was really, really tight. But Third Brigade, I'm a huge fan of 2 Panther. I deployed with them to Kosovo, and
Oh, really? You were
yeah,
part of that deployment?
yeah. That was.
There was a guy that got relieved from his unit, man, because I guess he mailed in his combat infantry badge from Desert Storm or something, because you guys had actually got into some combat in Kosovo, and this was in the 90s, mid 90s, right?
Or 99 we deployed.
Oh, okay.
We deployed to Albania, no notice, and then we road marched into Macedonia and then into Kosovo in all our vehicles. And we basically 2505. Me and Command Sergeant Major Kalinowski raised up the friggin' flagpole on Camp Bondsteel.
Really?
Yeah. It was some of the craziest, best times of my life. I'm an air defense platoon sergeant, and I've got the biggest guns that the sergeant major has. Right, I've got those Avengers with the 50 cals. So basically, Sergeant Major Kalinowski said, yeah, you guys have an air defense mission, but put all your missiles away and get your 50 cals loaded, and you're going to go do what I tell you. And being with Sergeant Major K, hey, dude, I love that guy. I would love to interview him. Anybody out there that knows the whereabouts of Sergeant Major Kalinowski, I want to know. I want to know him. I want to see him. Were you around when he was around?
No, but I know the name.
Oh yeah.
I was around at that time in the 82nd, but but I know the name. I didn't have any interaction with him. I had, like I said, I had Thorpe and a couple other command sergeant majors command sergeant. I hate the way they do that. Command sergeants major.
Yeah, right.
Command sergeant majors, man. But yeah, a lot of those guys, man, they were old school. I had Sergeant Major Champagne. He was my last battalion command sergeant major. I don't know if you heard of him or knew him.
I have.
Dude, he was tough, man. He was the dude that said, "You're going to Ranger school, or you ain't going to be a platoon sergeant here, man." I was like, "God dang, dude." I said, "Really?" He's like, "No, serious." I went. So yeah.
It's wild that that mentality, right? Mm-hmm. Either you meet these standards or you're not going to be a leader in my organization. Not because the tab makes the man, but the tab makes the man.
I have a standard that we have a standard we're going to follow.
Right. I never went to Ranger school. It wasn't technically open for my MOS.
Right.
In a way, but in another way, I could have. If I really wanted to go, I could have gone. Okay, so to use that as an excuse is real bullshit. But I don't know. I just found I found a way to get out of it in my head. I guess nobody said you have to go to Ranger school, and so I never kind of did. But if somebody would have challenged me, I guarantee I'd have gone to Ranger school. I guarantee.
And it wasn't, every battalion wasn't like that, in the infantry battalions. Not everyone was like that, but that was his stronghold, and the battalion commander backed him up. He's like, nope, no platoon leader for lieutenants and no platoon sergeant unless they're Ranger qualified in this battalion. And I know how it works now. Now that I was a senior rank, that's a rite of passage for a battalion commander and a command sergeant major. Is how many Ranger and Jump Master qualified individuals do you have in your battalion? And that gets reported up on the hill.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I know how that works.
What you measure increases. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Nate, it's been a blast. I've enjoyed it very much. I really, really appreciate you being willing to listen to my rants and talk about politics and old Army stuff. And so this is our original from the Foxhole series. So we'll close it out. Do me a favor, and I'll let you have the final word. And make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you and how they can get a copy of this wonderful book right here.
Oh, sure will.
Oops.
You're all right. To your audience out there, thank you for listening to our stories. We got into a little politics tonight, but pretty much, I think if you're on this podcast listening to us, we're probably all on the same sheet, man. We just want our country to be free. We want ourselves to have a strong military in our country and a free world, and we're not asking for too much. Anyways, I appreciate you guys being with us. If you want to check out my books, you can Google me. Just Google Nathan Aguinaga. That's Aguinaga, or go on my website, Aguinaga, Aguinaga.com, and all my books will come up, and there's a direct link to Amazon, or just go on Amazon and type in my name, and all my books will come up. So I appreciate it. Thanks. And thanks, Will, for having me again, man. We had a great time.
I love it, man. We're going to do a regular thing, so I'll be in touch. So,
okay, sounds good.
All right. Bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye, everybody.